All right, ladies and gentlemen, automotive enthusiast friends from all over the place. Yeah, it happened. I don't know if you meant to or not, but you pushed play on yet another
perspicacious episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
Perspicacious?
Yeah, and I had to practice that one for a while. Make sure I got it right.
What the
I'm
heck
already
is
over my head.
Yeah, you and me both. What is perspicacious?
That means highly perceptive or keen, much like our listeners.
Much like our guest.
Yes.
Oh, God.
All right, I'm your host, Kevin Oeste, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Clarke, and we have a perspicacious guest on the line, my good friend, Mr. Chris Vopat. Chris, welcome to the show.
You're already setting the bar high with perspicacious. Thank you. I don't feel nervous at all.
Well, we know that you're going to do pretty well in this trivia question thing, so Mike had to stack the cards in our favor somehow.
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be here. I don't know how I qualified to be on such a lofty interface with the automotive public. I mean, there are eagles in this industry, and I am but a mere feather that has dropped from one of the wings of those eagles and have just been floating on the winds of the industry for the past 20 years.
Time out.
You and me both, pal, except I've been being pushed down the road by the gas of the industry. Like a tumbleweed.
Yeah, but you Forrest Gumped your way through it a lot better than I have.
That's a great way to put it, because that's about what happened. Wake up one day eating a box of chocolates, next thing you know, you're peeing Dr. Pepper in the White House. You know, what are you going to do?
Oh, gee whiz.
Well, before we get into story time with Mr. Vopat, one of the reasons why our handful of listeners actually come to this experience is because of our automotive trivia question time. And each episode, we prepare a trivia question, and we ask our esteemed guests to join in. And Chris, did you prepare a question for us?
I did, and I don't want to appear perspicacious. But
bonus points for good proper use of the word.
Well, you use it in a sentence like it's a spelling bee or something. But I thought about it, and I've been in my COVID bunker and doing a lot of automotive research, and I've been studying the cars of France. So okay, Citroën, which is no longer sold in the U.S., or Citroën, as you would say.
Sleazebag Americans would say.
It's a Citroën, right? Yeah. But the emblem for years has been a double chevron. And there is a symbolic reason why the Citroën emblem is a double chevron. Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Well, because I'm a very gracious host and a very generous person, I will let our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Clarke, field the first guess on what he thinks about the Citroën double chevron.
All right. So what is the meaning behind the double chevron of the Citroën emblem?
Yeah.
Ever been to France, Mike?
I have not been to France.
You've been close.
Yeah, I've been to Germany and England.
Yeah.
Let's
Not
see.
going to help you.
And Italy for about 20 minutes.
It was like going into Wisconsin.
Yeah, I zipped in, picked the guys up, we zipped out.
Did you have the EM50 with you?
Of course I have the EM50. I don't go to Europe without it.
Did you get it washed?
I took it up to the Alps to go shushing.
And now we go schussing.
Oh, man. Okay, the two emblems. I'm going to just throw it out there and say that it represents... I'm going to say it's something along the lines of the rings of the Audi emblem that have to do with the auto union from Germany.
Ooh,
I'm going to say
trivia
that
question. You wasted one.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
I'm going to say it's a similar thing with the Citroën emblem, that it represents two major car companies that came together.
Wow, that is a good guess. Not correct, but a very good guess.
Well, hey, you're not supposed to reveal that till the end of the show. So
I'm sorry.
It could be. It's a great guess.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, maybe
Porsche
you're
and
wrong.
Audi.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Oh. We didn't go over the rules, so I didn't know that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. We reveal these answers at the end of the show. This is the way we bait and switch people into listening to this whole thing. You ask the question at the beginning.
Okay.
But don't worry, only 30% of, 60, I guess 15% of the suspense has been released here because we got multiple people with a couple questions. So.
Oh, man.
But it still could be.
Okay, could be.
But that was one of the most insightful answers I think we've ever had.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it was good. Well, you just ate, I think.
Yeah, I think that helps, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm just coming off my 3-day drunk.
And there's a story behind that, too, for our listeners. As we speak, our friend Mr. Vopat's actually coming off the actual COVID-19 virus experience.
I have been locked in my bedroom for 10 days.
Yeah.
My wife leaves my meals at the door, calls me to let me know they're ready. She steps away. I put a mask on and open up the door, pull my meals in, and eat them. And everything is on paper plates and plastic knives, and so nothing dirty leaves the room.
You just burn everything in the closet.
Yeah, right? I just put them in a trash bag and throw them out the window.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that you're coming out of it. And before we got started, Chris mentioned that the worst of his experience felt like a 3-day drunk and then 3 days of sleep and then delirium. So that's what Mike's reference was of the 3-day drunk.
Well, when I got a drive-up test and I felt like garbage. And my wife is in the medical world, so she hooked me up with a test with a result within an hour. So still sitting in my car and getting the phone call, you are positive. Well, my condition is deteriorating, and then I have to get most of the way across Orange County back home while I feel drunk.
Man,
Jeez.
You're lucky.
But
that could have been really bad.
It could have been, but it's weird. I was thinking about all the different, your life stops because you just get shoved in a room while the rest of the world continues around you. And that includes all the projects you were working on. So I was kind of in the middle of putting a backup camera in my wife's car. So unfortunately, she just finished her portion of the isolation, which is the rest of our house. But she's been driving around, unfortunately, with half a dashboard, no door panels.
Oh no!
Oh gee whiz.
The interior of her car is piled up next to it in the garage because unfortunately, I was and loose wires everywhere because I'm in the middle of this project, and all of a sudden I got to put the brakes on it.
Oh wow!
So hats off to her for unfortunately driving her stripped interior automobile for the time being.
No kidding. That is crazy.
The things the women in our life put up with.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and taking the time to call me and ask me what I'd like to eat for my next meal. How was that?
Yeah, she's a saint.
Here's my options.
Yeah, that's impressive. Good woman.
It is. Yeah, she really, really is.
Well, the good thing is that bought me a whole bunch of time to think about the Citron question.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what did Wikipedia say?
I know. I never look it up, man. I don't cheat.
All right.
Primarily because there's nothing to gain because we have no prizes, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, I guess that's true. I guess you're right.
But I don't know. I know a little bit of this answer, but I don't know all of it. And the little bit that I know, I seem to recall that double chevron V thing in that logo is supposed to represent some sort of a mesh gear pattern is what I'm thinking, because Citroen advanced I don't know, transmission or some drive or whatever, but I don't know that part of it, but I think it's supposed to represent a V series, like I forgot even what that's called when the gears are cut in a V pattern.
Wow.
That's my guess.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, just as wrong as Mike, but
nice guess.
You never know. Yeah. It's funny. You asked Mike a minute ago if he had ever been to France, and I've never been anywhere. I've been to the Auto Sports Show in England, which is like going to Wisconsin. But it made me think about my parents' last trip to Europe. Now, they could have brought me back any kind of souvenir. They went to France, Italy. They saw Le Mans. They do all this stuff. What's the best souvenir they could have brought their son? My dad hands me a half-smashed chrome plastic Peugeot grill badge, the rearing lion.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
Did
it's
you pick
all
it up off the street or something?
it was scratched up, and I'm like, "What gives?" He goes, "We were standing on the street corner in Paris. I see this big wreck. A Peugeot nails another car, goes up on the sidewalk. The grill explodes. He goes, I picked this up. Here you go. I figured this would be the best souvenir you'd want from France."
There you go.
Nice.
That is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have it.
Oh, I know you do. Yeah, and Mike, if you this may have changed over the past 20 years, but many years ago, Chris's decor in his house was very automotive centric, and he had various badges and nameplates framed and stuff on the walls. And partly because in Southern California, where Chris lives, and when I lived out there, we could go to junkyards and find weird cars that were still on the road.
Oh, cool.
So I remember, Chris, I once went to the scrapyard and I gave you a Hillman Minx badge. Yeah, that got framed and hung on the wall.
I framed it. It's still in my hallway.
Nice.
Dude, I still have that. You got to understand, this is after my freedom from my release from the service of the state from my first wife, and I felt a very intense sense of freedom of being released from Country Bear Jamboree plates on the wall and stuff like that, and
brilliant.
Now, you spend your weekends at a junkyard, you get ideas, and so you start bringing home tailgates for coffee tables and radiators for end tables and camshafts for lamps and stuff like that. And I was so proud to bring, prospective mates to my home and show it off. And the comment was typically, "You decorated yourself, didn't you?"
What do you think, baby?
I called it Sanford and Son meets the Smithsonian. Now, I realized I needed some grown-up furniture to, really advance myself in life. But my wife has graciously allowed me to keep certain things like the Minx emblem. We still have the Cadillac toilet.
Nice.
We have the Hall of Transportation, which is a lot of automotive-themed artwork down our hallway.
Yep.
But most of the other stuff had to go back to the junkyard, which it really, when your house starts to smell like a junkyard,
Yeah, those radiators are hard to get really clean from an old Dodge truck or whatever it was.
Yeah, they are. They really are. But
we're also talking to a guy who, for Halloween, once dressed up like a late '80s Buick station wagon.
Nice.
Again.
And I think I still have that hat, by the way.
Holy crap! And again, you're at the junkyard on a Saturday. You know that Kevin's party is that night, and you don't have a costume, and you're standing in front of a Buick estate wagon. What would you do?
So he made a baseball cap. Put wood grain on the bill, put some stick-on chrome trim around the edge of the bill.
Nice.
Had the hood ornament, the Buick hood ornament on top of the hat. Yeah. And then he wears like this red, I don't know, like a long sleeve shirt, and then made like a vest of wood grain.
Oh my God.
With a state wagon on it. It was awesome.
and that allowed me to retain some like mobility walking around your place. The other one I think was the Packard hood ornament, which I had to paint myself silver. Which that's a hard pull. You're an obscure mid 1930s hood ornament. In the modern day, most people are like, "What are you, the FDD florist?" Or what are you?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Your Mercury.
Nobody knew what that was. Nobody knew.
Yeah, we had some serious Halloween parties, and
oh my gosh,
Chris always brought it up to another level.
Nice.
Now, speaking of that, I don't know if we need to stay on any kind of particular topic, Kevin.
Well, what we're going to do real fast before you go there. We still got 2 more trivia questions here. We got to get Mike's and mine out here. So.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
Beautiful.
Our listeners like things getting changed up every once in a while. It's all good stuff. So, Mikey, have you prepared a trivia question for myself and our guest?
Absolutely. All right, boys. What was the cost of the most expensive Hot Wheels car ever made?
like the current retail
modern-
value? Or?
And bonus question: what was the car? It was a
talking about,
special. It was a commemorative car,
Okay.
so not really open for the general public. But
Are you talking about like when it was new, or what the current value is?
what it cost to make? What it cost to manufacture? Hot Wheels car.
Well, because I'm a generous host,
Yes, you are.
I'm going to allow our guest, Mr. Chris Vopat, to take the first whack at that one.
Oh man, well, I'm going with Beach Bum, which is the Volkswagen van, but the limited edition, which had the side-mounted surfboard, in some sort of like a pearl pink color. Are we talking like old days Hot Wheels, or
Any-
of all time?
Any
Oh,
Hot
man.
Wheels.
All right, I'm sticking with my Beach Bum.
All right. So what was the cost?
Like brand new. Well, now today that's like the most coveted one of today, which is in the 20,000 range. But oh man, if I'm going to stick with the Beach Bum, I can only go with like maybe $3-4, which I know ain't going to get it.
Well, I think he was talking. Well, I'll bite my tongue. Great answer.
If we're talking standard line Hot Wheel, I don't know.
Well, like I said, it was a special unit that was made.
Okay,
That's all I'll give you.
that's my answer. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
All right.
Well, that's a great answer, I think, to a different question.
Yeah, it went off the rails.
Well, what he's talking about is that Beach Bum VW bus is like the highest valued Hot Wheels car of all time, especially with the side mount surfboards on it. But I think the question was, what was the most expensive one to produce?
Correct.
Not current value, or not the most expensive one to buy.
I'll give you another shot at that, Mr. Vopat.
Yes.
If should you decide to take it. Do you want to guess again?
He is suffering from the COVID, so
it's all right.
You know, I'm not going to take any more of my time on this. I'm going to allow our host to.
Well, I never said I knew the answer. I could understand the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say expense. That whole Hot Wheels thing is an economy of scale. So the more they make, the cheaper they become. So this had to have been like a super limited edition with only like 50 or so made, and it was probably in some exotic material. So maybe it was like gold or something, commemorative for, I don't know, a movie release or Elvis's birthday or some. I don't know, but so I don't know the particular car and what it cost to produce, but I'm going to say that it was. I'll give a partial answer. That was a very, very limited run, exotic material version of some Hot Wheels car, which I know is not a complete answer, but that's as far as I can tell you. And it cost I don't know, $2.5 million to develop.
$2.5 million. That's a gutsy answer.
Wow.
Unless,
God damn it.
all right, unless you're trying to jerk me here a little bit, because we never said the scale of the Hot Wheels car.
1/64 scale.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
You know, because our friend Carson Lev headed up a team to build the full-size twin mill.
Oh, right.
Which ran and drove, and that was probably more expensive than many.
Right.
Of these.
Yeah. No, that was not.
All right.
I'm not doing that to you.
Okay. Well, I just had to ask.
Maybe next time, but not this time.
Yeah. So that's my guess, is that it's a whatever that mishmash of an answer was.
Duly noted, fellas.
All right. And I've got one. We'll make it real quick. To whoever wants to field the answer first.
That's going to be you, Chris.
Oh, God.
When was the first plastic model kit made for sale? Just looking for the year.
Ooh. Does that include Bakelite?
No, well, I don't.
Or just styrene plastic?
Plastic car model kit. Commercially available.
1936.
Wow, 1936.
And I'm basing that on Ford's experimentation with soy products at about that time, resulting in plastic bodies. But that's going off the rails again.
Very good.
All right.
Ford's experimentation with soy products. Next thing you know, here's plastic models.
Right on. All right, I'm gonna say it was a little bit later than that,
All right.
and I'm gonna say the first plastic model kit for sale
Mm-hmm.
came out in 1964.
64. Big year for the Beach Boys
Mm-hmm.
and the Beatles. All right. Duly noted.
Right on.
All right. Well, we've kind of been all over the place already, which is great. But one thing I wanted to do was introduce our listeners to the context of who Mr. Vopat is and how he fits in at least my little world and Mike's as well. So Chris is a guy who's got a pretty diverse background, but I met him, I don't know, probably 1997.
Late 90s. Yeah.
7 or 8, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was selling magazine advertising for Hot Rod Magazine, Carcraft, and Chevy High Performance. And the office immediately next to me was the desk for advertising for Four Wheel and Off-Road Magazine, Petersen's Four Wheel and Off-Road. And one day they hire a brand new sales rep who comes in, and it's Mr. Vopat.
That's right.
And his office was immediately next to mine. And you know, at that company at the time, I'd only been there for probably, I don't know, maybe a year, I guess, not even. And everybody who worked there is trying to kind of fit in and carve a niche for themselves and make a go of it. And Chris was, and I mean this in the kindest way, but Chris is kind of a different personality. He was kind of an acquired taste at the time, primarily because Chris lived in Orange County in Southern California. I think actually in the city of Orange at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And
still do.
There you go. Same place?
Same place.
Same place, yeah. So for Chris to get to our Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles office was like a Herculean effort every day.
Really?
Because it was linear, probably 40 miles, 45 miles?
54.
If that. 54 miles,
Wow.
which encompassed him driving to a train station, jumping on a train, getting off the train, getting on a bus, taking the bus, getting in a rickshaw, and then a Sherpa, and then climbing a mountain. And then, he finally would get in by 9 o'clock in the morning. But he left his house at like 2 a.m. It just took forever to get there.
That's, you're forgetting the Basura, but we can get into that later.
The Toyota Basura, yeah.
Yes. When I chose to travel privately.
Right. So there were certain days when he drove himself all the way, and he had this gold Toyota. Was it a Camry? It wasn't a Camry. It was a Tercel. What was the thing?
Well, what happened? See, as you so aptly mentioned, it was a Herculean effort, and at the time I was driving a rather thirsty Chevy truck, and when I realized I was going to be spending 2 hours on the 405 freeway, I decided to sell it and buy something that basically would just eat miles and do nothing else. And that turned out to be a 1986 Camry, which I purchased for $800. And that became the Basura.
Yes, because as we alluded to earlier, Chris would spend time in junkyards and was a fan of badges and stuff, and created a whole new name for the car, a whole new badge. He badge engineered this thing. It wasn't badge shaming. It was not.
No. If you recall, it was badged as an Oldsmobile 98.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember that. But didn't you have Basura written on the back of it too?
No, that's just what we called it.
Basura in Spanish means garbage.
Basura. Yeah.
Well, it kind of became the bar car, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, Chris would get in and he's already kind of, half beat down in his day just by getting into the office.
Right.
And at the same time, as he also alluded to, he was going through a personal challenge of going through a divorce. So Chris was, kind of a bus wreck in many ways. And in the beginning, the other guys on the floor, we were all trying to be high energy and fit in. And, we're all super excited. We work for car magazines, and this is the greatest thing ever. And Chris is like, help me.
Oh, man.
Well, you were, if I can say, Kevin, you were an enabler.
Oh, so it wasn't just now; it was back then too. Nice.
Yeah.
I was only trying to help.
So I'm beaten down. I've got I've had the weight of the world crush my spirit, and this guy walks into my office and says, "What do you got to live for?" And I say, "Nothing." He goes, "Well, let's drink."
That's exactly right.
That sounds about right.
That was about every Friday evening.
Oh, yeah. Well, and so I was a single guy living by myself at the time we first met in Culver City and then in Hermosa Beach. So I was like, 15 to 20 minutes away from my house as opposed to you being 2 hours away.
Right.
So luckily the whole crew that worked on the floor together, we all got along really well, and we would go out every Friday night after work, and we'd go to Hollywood Boulevard, and we'd go to a lot of these different bars and hang out and everything. And then Chris would end up crashing at my house and then waking up Saturday morning, heading home. It was fun. So we bonded through all that, and I got to learn a whole bunch of great Vopat stories and see a lot of his very animated impersonations of machinery and airplanes and other things.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And he became definitely one of my best friends. And there's a little story that came up when I met Kelly, right? So I was on the Hot Rod Power Tour. You guys have heard this story before, but cross country, and Kelly and I met 7 states away from where I was living, and we started dating long distance. And the first time she came to visit in California, Chris had already been, he's in the recovery of his divorce and kind of, getting his stuff back together. And Chris decides to kind of return the favor in a weird way. And I introduce him to Kelly. And before I say what happened, so Mike, when you met Chris at the Hot Rod Power Tour stop, only, 7-8 years ago.
Right.
Chris told you to give a message to me, right?
To Kelly.
Or to Kelly.
Yeah.
What was the message? Do you remember?
It's something like he still means it.
So, Chris, do you remember exactly what you told her when you met? Because I was like, I'm introducing Kelly to all these people on the floor. And it's like, this is Kelly. And
let me provide a little backstory, if I may. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you've probably talked ad nauseum about the Galaxy taking its first foray onto the Power Tour, and I know what happened to your 390. And I remember being under the dashboard of that car at 4 a.m. the night before kickoff, installing a stereo, and then saying, "Kevin, what are we going to do to make sure this car makes it across the country?" And you mentioned something about the oil having never been changed since your father had done it several years earlier.
But oil's millions of years old. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, the car.
Look how long it's lasted.
Yeah. I was riding in someone else's car, which exploded in Barstow, so I came back to the office. And then Kevin comes back, regales me with this story about a girl he met who helped him. Farmer Blandford's daughter comes into the barn and helps sort push rods and clean bolts and stuff like that. And oh my gosh. And then 2 weeks later, it comes into my cubicle and says, "You're not going to believe who I got an email from." I said, "If it's the farmer's daughter, I'm kicking you in the face."
That's true. It's true. I remember it.
And then, one thing leads to another. She's coming out. She's coming to California. Can you you want to come out and meet with us? And sure, Kevin, you're my good friend, and I will do that. And so here is the country mouse coming to the city and standing in a line to get into a club on the Hermosa Strand in a barn coat and sensible shoes, looking at girls in looking at girls in cocktail dresses freezing as they're trying to get into the same clubs, and saying, "Why would they dress like that?"
Yeah, totally. She still says that.
so this builds up to Kevin is one of my best friends, and I'm, he's asked me to give my honors, and I thought she was absolutely wonderful, and I thought I was so happy. But as a little offhanded joke, I said something that is going to haunt me till my dying days: break his heart, and I'll kill you.
Yeah, so Chris pulls her aside, and I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm talking to somebody else, and he pulls her aside and he goes, yeah, hey, Kelly, yeah. You break his heart and I'll kill you. And she turns to me with kind of this stunned look on her face, and I didn't know what happened, and it was a little bit weird, and I'm trying to remember at what point did I find that out, that those words were said. I don't remember if she told me or I think she told me later on. She's like, what's with that Chris guy?
I know, and I felt bad after saying it. It was a joke, and here we are 20 years later still talking about it.
Well, but the good thing is she listened. She never broke my heart, which is fantastic.
There you go.
Thank you for that. And when you met Mike, the message you relayed to Kelly was, I still mean it.
I told her too.
At this point, at this point, it's just a running joke.
Right. Oh yeah. But it's a great one. It's a great story. Very funny story.
By the way, just one final comment on, as far as the legendary parties at the Hermosa residence. I was on Google Earth the other day. I'll just say this: the boulder is still there.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So a couple buddies of mine and I lived in Hermosa Beach in California, and we would have these. We lived in the top floor of this apartment, and we had a lot of parties, a lot of social gatherings. People would come over. A lot of the car industry guys that lived in the area would come by. It was really a lot of fun. Our Halloween party was a lot of fun, and my landlord got so mad because people would park right in front of this place, which looked like a parking spot. It held a vehicle, which for all intents and purposes, it was a parking spot. And one day, I think Chris discovered it. He comes over to my house and he goes, "Hey, Oeste, what's with this boulder out in front of the place?" And the landlord had this 2-ton boulder brought in and set right in that parking spot, a boulder the size of a car, because it was pissing him off that we were parking there. And that boulder is still there today. Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
I did. I actually looked it up on Google Earth the other day when I was looking for something else, and I was like, I gotta go see.
Yeah.
Nice. You affected permanent change in someone. Outstanding.
Yeah.
So over the years, my career went a direction, and Chris's went a different direction, and he ended up working for the NMRA, the National Mustang Racers Association, and the Race Pages newspaper, and then moved on to Race Pack and worked there for a while. And now you're back with the NMRA.
That's
which
true.
You've been for a couple of years now, right?
I have, and I one of my other best friends in life and in this industry, Mr. Steve Wolcott.
Yep.
Number one, he's the guy who kind of got a foot in the door for me at Petersen back in the 90s. I was working for my parents, who ran a business forms brokerage service. They're going to shut their business down and gave me the option of taking it over. Well, I'm sitting there designing a warehouse restock form for Slurpee. Thinking.
And you turn this down?
Thinking, do I want to be doing business forms and business cards? Or my friend Steve just called and said, "Hey man, if you think you can hack advertising sales," they just kicked one of the four-wheel and off-road dudes off his desk because they found a bunch of inappropriate materials in his computer. I think I can get you an interview. And so that was my in to interview with Mr. Jim Ryan, who was the publisher, and I got to know Seb Bergandio and Rick Payway and all the guys on the truck side of the industry. And then as the Petersen empire started to get sucked closer to the black hole, and the reverse thrusters were rammed as far forward as they could go, and people are being poached at their desks over the phone by other companies that realize we don't want to be there anymore. and I got sucked into an even darker black hole, which was the first internet boom. Um,
Oh yeah,
in two,
race search.
Racesearch.com, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, in 2000, every company in the automotive aftermarket realized they needed a website. They didn't know what websites were, but when Edelbrock saw that Holly had one, they're like, "Give me one of those." And when
Mm-hmm.
Flowmaster saw that MagnaFlow had one, they said, "Give me one of those." And so all these companies now have websites that they don't know what to do with. And then somebody gets the bright idea, well, can we sell parts on these things? I don't know. Let's find out.
Mm-hmm.
So carparts.com, research.com become the two internet powerhouses to try and figure out how to sell parts on the internet for the first time. And it didn't work. Nobody knew how to make it work. But so the
It
whole
had to
thing
happen,
was,
though.
it had to happen. And in the early days, it was sad to watch because we had a room full of motorheads saying, I got 87 Mustang 5 liter. I want a K&N air filter for it. Like, give me a part number and a price. And then the eggheads on the other side of the room, no. You see, you give me the part number, and I'll tell you all the vehicles that part fits. And they could never see eye to eye. The thing exploded within a year. And at the time, they made their own magazine, and I was designing, or they were doing their own advertising, and I'm drawing the ad for what is the back cover of Race Pages. We all get fired with an email. I call Steve Walcott.
Wow.
I'm like, we're just back from the PRI show. I'm finding out that we never for our space, and our crates are going to get lien sold off the freight dock in Indianapolis because we didn't even pay for it. I call Steve Walcott. I'm like, hey man, are we into you for any money for these advertisements? He goes, yeah, you haven't paid me dime one. You owe me like $8,000. I'm like, we all just got fired by an email.
Oh man.
So he's like, come in tomorrow. I don't know you. You don't know me. Bring a resume. And that was a little over 20 years ago. I did take a foray to go work for RacePack for a couple of years, and through the acquisitions that Holly has made, that became something that's since moved on to their headquarters in Bowling Green. So at the same around that time, I've rejoined the Pro Media team and NMCA and MRA. Now I'm basically head Sherpa and logistics guy. So if it needs to get to an event, I get it there. I do the setups, I do the teardowns, I do all that kind of stuff. I'm not really into sales anymore because that's something that will burn you out at some point if you do it for too long. As Kevin, I'm sure you found out. Yes. So, but
Yeah.
so I'm basically been a Sherpa in the industry, but it's like you meet so many fantastic people and you get so many fantastic opportunities that a normal person who just likes cars may not have thrust in their general direction.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of cool things along the way. Like, for example, when Race Search had their Dan Gurney All American Racers auction.
Oh my gosh!
Remember that? And they were selling memorabilia online and in
Shit.
person, I think. But that was my
Oh
chance to
man!
actually meet Gurney and tour that shop. That was
Oh,
dynamite.
oh man! Yeah, Dick Dixon, who one of my he's passed away a few years ago. Absolutely warm gentleman who hired me into Race Search with all the best intentions. They're looking for something else as a revenue stream. We're located in Santa Ana, 5 miles from Dan Gurney's factory. All of a sudden, we start receiving resumes from Gurney's people, wondering what the heck is this all about. Come to find out, this is about the time that Toyota decided to go NASCAR. They back up several trucks to Dan Gurney's factory. They say, thank you very much for 27 wonderful years of IMSA GT, of GT racing, IndyCar racing. You have 27 of our engines. We'd like them back now.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, wow.
So the plug gets pulled from Dan Gurney's main operation, and all of a sudden they need to let people go. So we hire a few of their people, and we get wind that he wants to basically liquidate as much of his old stuff as he can do to sort of make some money to stay afloat, because they're still racing Toyota Atlantic. They were developing the first generation of the Alligator motorcycle at the time, and doing private work with they've got a water drag sled, a wind tunnel. autoclaves. They're doing carbon fiber in the early days. So
They had
they
that
got
whole
lots of.
track simulator on the hydraulic
Oh
struts and all
yeah,
that stuff.
they had all that in a gigantic compound that took up like 2 city blocks. And so they hit on the idea of, in speaking with some of Gurney's people, of doing an online auction of some just classic Gurney stuff. So Jack Saltiel and Dick Dixon, the two guys that run Research, come into my office and they hand me a fan-folded stack of dot matrix printouts of the Dan Gurney inventory. And they said, read this. And I'm reading words like turbo shell, upright, uh, uh, rear wing, front left wing. Do you know what these words are? And I said, yeah. Get in the car. Get in the car. Now, I'm in the back seat of Dick's Honda Accord. He said, memorize as much of that as you can. I'm like, it's 3 inches thick. He said, here's the plan. We're going into a conference room with Dan Gurney and his handlers. We're going to propose the idea of doing an online auction for whatever they'd like to sell out of their shop. You're going to be the auctioneer. Just smile and nod and act important. We brought you in, and you're the expert. I said, okay.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I actually never heard that story.
So Kathy Wida, who is his personal secretary, and she's a wonderful person, and some of the other people in their orbit were sitting around discussing the idea, and I don't know what's going on, but I'm smiling and nodding as instructed. And so then they said, would you like a tour of the facility? Oh, sure. So we're walking, this is building A. This is where we do the autoclave for the testing for carbon fiber. And these are all of the side pods from last year's Indy cars. And this is our 93 GTP3 car over here. And then we walk into the magic room where they turn on the light. And as, picture it in a movie when they turn warehouse lights on. And the lights are coming on. And on both sides of the warehouse, parked at a 45-degree angle to center, every car they've ever made.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man.
Really, they had all of them still.
Well, okay, except none of the AAR cars, so none of the Cudas,
Right.
none of the
Trans Am
Cougars,
stuff.
none of the Trans Am stuff, but every Indy car except for the really important one, the one he won Spa in 1968, the blue and white car, number 36. But they're walking past all these cars. Oh, this is the only one that our team ever won, 1975, light blue Olsenite car. There it is. That's our team car that won in 75. All these other cars. And they let me sit in one of them. And in the corner, 1960s light blue Corvair, perfectly restored, sitting on 4 flat tires covered in a layer of dust. What's with the Corvair? Oh. That's what I want to know. What's with the Corvair? And that was a car that apparently Dan Gurney took his wife Evie out to, and this is the story I was told, on their first date. Huh. For their 50th wedding anniversary, she tracks the car down, buys it, has it restored, and they take their 50th anniversary dinner in that car that they had taken their early dates on. Wow. He was driving this Corvair, apparently, and then put it in the corner of the shop, and there it had sat ever since. So they're like, will you get away from the Corvair? We're going to go look at these Indy cars over. Okay, fine.
Yeah, right.
We get back to the office, and of course I'm starry-eyed, and they said, well, we played you off as the auctioneer. We have no idea what we're doing. Just go ahead and do it. Oh okay.
Man. Okie doke.
Okie doke. So my job becomes going into Dan Gurney's shop every week, selecting several items for sale, and I'm walking through the shop with their ex-crew chief, and darn if I could remember his name, wonderful guy. His wife worked with us at Research. But he is walking with I'm like, what's my limits here? Okay, you show me what you think looks cool, and I'll tell you what it is, and we gather parts, put them on a cart, we put them in a big room, and then Mr. Gurney comes in. I'm following him with a dictaphone, this guy had the most incredible memory of anyone you can imagine. He picks up a smashed wheel. Oh, yeah, this was Road Atlanta, 1986. P.J. Jones was coming out of turn 3. Mario crossed him up, and that's what smashed this wheel. Why would you want to sell this? Guys are asking for smashed up stuff because they know it's race used, right? And I'm just taking furious notes of what this man is saying.
Yeah.
What was this? This is in the mid-'70s. Everybody's trying to figure out aerodynamics. We figured if we slapped a wing on the roll bar in the middle of the car and run it around Ontario a few times and put some sensors on it, see if it worked. Bad idea. We ended up throwing that thing on the roof of the dually to get a little bit of airflow over the top of the trailer for the rest of the season.
That's awesome.
So we start selling this stuff online, and this is before eBay. We contracted with a company out of like Delaware that did these little boutique online auctions, and sold the stuff, and then he would autograph it for an extra few dollars, and it went to the Susan G. Komen charity, and off it went to all the happy buyers. And then we started getting requests for people who said, do you have a left front upright for a 998 car? Like, why do you ask? Well, because I'm putting one back together. So now guys who had these cars are buying parts because they realize where they are. And it's like, the treasure trove lid has been taken off. Guys know where the parts are now, and they're trying to find things to put cars back together. It was really amazing.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. And then the whole thing, we all got fired with that email. Boom. That was the end of that. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, so I remember doing a little promo thing for Hot Rod TV at that auction.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember walking down that aisle where there was like Indy cars stacked vertically, essentially.
Yes. At that time, they were consolidating space because they figured, they're going to have to sell some of their buildings or something like that. And they hit on the idea of basically putting in rack shelving and taking these cars that have been displayed on the floor at 45-degree angle, looking very, very beautifully displayed, but then basically just building a giant vertical Hot Wheel holder.
Yeah, they're all standing on end.
And sticking these, they weren't on end, but they were in basically steel cubicles on the wall. And they could save space that way and open up the floor. But it was like the most... Now you see Ford does it at every, time they introduce a new Mustang. But at the time, to see cars sort of packaged like that against a wall was just visually bewildering.
Yeah. And here's something that's kind of crazy. So as we're recording this today, this is the 51st anniversary of Apollo 11 taking off, right?
Yeah.
Last year, on the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the actual moon landing, so it'd be a couple days ahead, July 20th or whatever it was, I got an email from Justin Gurney. And I remember telling Mike about this. Justin Gurney sends me an email saying, hey, I watch your Muscle Car of the Week show. Do you know where I can find a clean green AAR CUDA? Because we don't have any.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, you guys don't have an AAR car? And you just, validated that story. Apparently, they never had any outside of the race cars, and they got rid of them somewhere. And
there were some like vestigial wisping remains. Like we found a pallet that had 5 Boss 302 Mexican blocks in Cosmoline, and it's like. Yeah, that was for the AAR cars, and like some dude that was building Silver State cars at the time came and bought the whole pallet of them. But a couple of Ford parts just kind of creeped out of the woodwork while we were looking. None of the bodywork, so none of the hoods, none of the emblems, none of the stuff that made a Cougar into a Gurney Cougar, but just little things that you found here and there. It was crazy.
It's unbelievable that he saved all that stuff. And of course, today, it's pretty cool because AAR is doing so much more than their race program. They're doing so much high-tech stuff in aerospace. When you watch the Tesla rocket boosters come down and land and the little tripod legs pop out at the last second, Those are made by AAR. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I
My
did not know
neighbor,
that.
the guy at the end of my block, makes them.
No kidding.
No way.
This is the weirdest thing. He has a cat named Toby that wanders the neighborhood. Um, he wanders into my garage. I feed him all the time, and Victor comes over to get his cat. One day he's like, "Would you like to come over for a glass of wine?" And I'm sitting in his house, and I'm like, "So what do you do, Victor?" He goes, "I'm in carbon fiber." Really? What do you do in carbon fiber? He goes, "You ever watch the Falcon 9s when they land on the platforms?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I build the legs."
Nice.
I'll be darned.
I'm like, "You kidding me?"
You better give his cat some better food now, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
he's the coolest cat in the neighborhood.
Yeah, space cat.
Yeah.
Mike, Chris used to have a cat named
Linus?
we nicknamed Linus because he carried a blanket around with him.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, we was Linus Christ.
Yeah, he saved your life.
He saved my life.
Really?
Saved my life. Okay, so as Kevin said, I would drive my car to the Orange train station, take the Metrolink into LA, get off that, get on the Red Line subway, take it to where it ends at Wilshire Western, take a bus the rest of the way to the Petersen building, cross the street, punch a guy out in the crosswalk, whatever, go into the building. So one night, and it was thanks to probably one of our evenings out, I was out way too late and overslept.
Nah.
Or no. I got home too late and I forgot to feed Linus. So he's standing on me at 5 a.m, jumping up and down, saying, "I would like my breakfast." So as long as I was up, I took an earlier train. My normal Metrolink train got into an accident that day.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
And collided with a freight train in Fullerton.
Holy cow.
And Kevin's like, "Dude, if you were on that train, you probably would have gotten creamed." And I said, "I took the earlier train. Linus woke me up early for his breakfast." He goes, "You got to call that cat Linus Christ from now on. He saved your life."
Nice.
Yeah. Linus was a good cat. He carried his little blanket around with him wherever he went.
Yeah, he did.
So
awesome.
one of the things that Chris hasn't talked about that he does, of course, now in the COVID times, it's a little bit different. But for the past few years, he's been a tour guide at the Petersen Museum.
Right.
A docent.
A docent.
Yeah.
Tour guides. Get it right, Oeste.
Another trivia question
Get
right
it
out the
right.
window, man. He's
Yes.
a docent at the Pete
Yes.
and does just a tremendous job. So a couple of years ago, Kelly and I were back in LA. What the heck? Oh, we were there for the SEMA Hall of Fame banquet, and we took a couple days of vacation after that, and just went and did tourist stuff. And at the time when Chris and I were working together for a while there, we used to actually park our cars at the Petersen Museum, which is a couple of blocks from the office, and they weren't business related, which was interesting. Robert Petersen kind of funded a good part of the museum, but the magazine company really had nothing to do with the actual museum.
Oh,
which
really?
seems detached, but that's how it was. Right. But they rented
Right.
the parking lot for employees, so we'd park over there and take a little shuttle bus or walk over. And we used to have meetings over there, sales meetings and stuff, and so I was pretty familiar with the Petersen, but this was long before it got renovated, and the exhibits do change, periodically. Yeah. So I told Kelly, I'm like, you know what, let's go to the museum, and just be tourist museum patrons. And I knew Chris was working there, and he said, what you want to do is get the vault tour, which is in the basement where the cars are in storage, and check that out. So we took him up on it. It was killer. We got in the back of the line. It wasn't a special treatment thing or nothing. We were just in the crowd with everybody else. And I'll tell you, you did just such an awesome, amazing job of telling those stories of those cars and engaging everybody. I didn't ever want it to end, man.
Oh, well, it's my happy place. And it goes back to those days when, when I started working at Petersen Publishing, the museum had just opened, and it was the place where we all wanted to have a meeting, Mm-hmm. And then it was like, well, there's the rest of your day. How are you going to go back to working in a cubicle after you've just, sat 3 feet from the hero hot of Mercury having a meeting about sales quotas. It's a little difficult. And, the earliest power tours took off from the museum parking lot back in the, like 95, and standing there in this place and being around all these cars, and then being all jazzed up because you're going to leave the next morning to go on this epic journey that started from the nucleus of cars in LA. It just kind of became this cool place. And I started running into their people. I would go to car shows, and they would have one of their cars there, and it would be stewarded by one of their curatorial experts, or Tom Kinney, who was the collection manager at the time. And I started chatting him up. How do I get in over there, man? He goes, well, you can't just be anybody, right? Now there's a spot on the website. You want to volunteer, sign up. But at the time, it was a little, and I remember going to an interview at the museum. I might be a docent, And again, taking this journey from Orange County up to LA, driving in my 2 mile per gallon Mustang. And I'm too cheap to park in the garage now. I'm going to park on the street. And I'm wearing a blazer and a tie. And I've got a portfolio of stuff I've done. And I'm going to try and convince these people that I need to be, a volunteer. And as I'm walking up to the building, I see a girl, very attractive, standing next to a Volkswagen Jetta with a flat tire and a lug wrench in her hand, asking me for help. And I'm like, oh, this is a test. There's somebody in there. There's somebody in there with binoculars looking at this, isn't there? I'm like, okay, I'll change your tire, missy, and walk into the building all sweaty. Why are you all sweaty? You nervous? I just changed that girl's tire down there. Oh, well, that was very nice of you, but let's talk about what you'd like to do here at the museum. I thought,
but you're late.
You guys didn't set that up? No, we did not. But that was in the early days when the museum was a diorama. Because it was originally, as you said, Kevin, it wasn't part of Petersen Publishing. It was a branch of the Los Angeles Museum of Natural History. And the mission of the museum was to show how Los Angeles and the automobile grew up together as basically brother and sister, and shaped LA. LA became a car culture. We have roads and freeways, and it dictated what the cars were going to look like, and vice versa, and they impacted each other. And that was cool, but a diorama that was built in the mid-'90s is still going to be a diorama built in the mid-'90s when you come back 2 years later. So they shut the place down in 2014 and decided to turn it into a world-class automotive destination. And they gutted all 3 floors of the museum. They put, if you've seen pictures of it, there's a red ribbon sculpture skin that surrounds the entire building. Ribbons of stainless steel. It's a red building, with these silver ribbons backed in red with backlit LED. It's supposed to emulate the look of motion, the look of energy. What would it look like if a building's in a wind tunnel, basically? And when it reopened, it was basically what our curator called a European-style museum, very stark, black floors, white walls, black ceilings, low cordons, no ropes, very low wire cordons. You're taking a picture of a car, it's not going to interfere. But now you've got 3 blank canvases that you can change and mold and do whatever you want. And they can change themes, and they can change the entire room. And it's not a static thing. It's all very kinetic. And the cars, a lot of the times, don't fit an exhibit. So if they're not doing anything about muscle cars, where are the muscle cars going to go? Down into the basement until they need to be on display. And so that's the mystique of the vault. These are all the cars that are either off rotation or have just never been displayed for whatever reason. And there's a lot of cars that are privately owned just being stored down there because it's a big place. And so at first it was, well, let's make the vault, it's just like this little morsel that maybe someone's heard of. And if you know the right guy and it's the right time of day and you get the right person, they might take you down there and show you around. But when they decided to do formal tours of the vault and asked the volunteer staff, hey, anybody want to go down there and give 2-hour tours in the secret room? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's a page straight out of Disney.
Yes.
because I'm sure you've heard the story, but in 1955, before when Disneyland first opened up, the landscaping wasn't done between the parking lot
Right.
and the front gates,
Yeah.
and they had
Hmm.
the trams going by, and Walt saw these weeds on the ground. He didn't want weeds, so
Yeah.
they put little hang tags on the weeds with the Latin name of the weed.
Hmm.
So they made a thing out of nothing, and not to
Yes.
say the vault is nothing, but they made an attraction out of this thing that was already there.
Right, right. And at first they still tried to capture the mystique of this dank, dark thing you're not supposed to be in. The floors were a little dirty. We got to go through the shop area. They don't do any restorations at the Petersen, but essentially the cars are sympathetically maintained. So if a car is in running condition, it'll be kept in running condition, and it's going to get driven, and it's maintained for the best that they can do on premises. And so we would go through the shop, and oh, hey, guess what? Our Duesenberg is having a new radiator put in. So there's the whole front of it torn down. You get a good view of the engine this way.
Mm-hmm.
There are some cars that are in the garage area. Now, pre-renovation, keep in mind, this is a department store. It was built in 1962. It was a Japanese store called Seibu. In 1968, it became an ore box. And in 1986, it shut down. It was never meant to be a car museum. So for the upper floors, for things that didn't fit up the spiral ramp at either end of the parking garage, it would need to be craned up from Fairfax onto the roof of the building and then driven through the upstairs doors.
Wow.
Yeah. So when they did the renovation in all of they've already blown the building up. They put an elevator in that'll basically, I forget the dimensions of it, but they're big enough to take any kind of vehicle they're ever going to display from basement level to rooftop. Just by driving it into the basement level garage, putting it in the elevator or street level, putting it in the garage, and up it goes to wherever it needs to be. There's one car in particular that I'm thinking about, which was a 1909 Daimler. It was the coach of King George V, and that car is so huge that it's never going to leave the garage area, because I think even with all four tires flattened, it can't fit under a sprinkler pipe or something like that. But once they started getting feedback on this tour, as much as we could make it exciting and show people neat things, it was still a dank, dark garage. So over the time period, they've painted it, they've freshened it up, they've put murals down there, they've installed air conditioning and heat for the first time. It's kind of not cool when it's 95 degrees in this unventilated basement and people just paid $20 to listen to you yammer on and they're passing out. So now it's ventilated, and they've sort of themed it to where first we're going to talk about brass era, then we're going to go to hot rods, then we're going to go to French cars and English cars and race cars and all this and all that. And then presidential cars. What my favorite thing is taking a diverse group of people, saying, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different things that are probably going to blow your mind, and then just watching what people key in on and what cars certain people come to the front to look at, what they ask questions about,
Mm-hmm.
It might be, I could show you Fred Astaire's 1927 Rolls Royce. Yeah, okay, whatever. But we get to a particular Mustang, and then somebody lights up and says, oh my gosh, that looks like the one that my dad had.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I got a Mustang, who cares? This is Fred Astaire's Rolls Royce. Oh my God, is that Louis Vuitton luggage on the back of this thing? Yes, it is. So it's fascinating to just to watch different people who've been taken down there and see what they like. And it's immediately, it's like water and oil. It's two groups of people. It's all the guys and all the girls who brought them there for their birthday or for Father's Day or whatever,
Yeah.
because the guy said it'll be fun, and then the girls who's just kind of like dragged behind, like okay,
Yeah.
What's the coolest and most inspirational thing about all this is the little kid who will force his way to the front and have his hand in the air at every single car and want to say something he thinks he knows about it. And then the parents are standing behind him, shrugging, going, we don't know where we get this. We drive a van. The kid likes cars. I don't know why. And you take them by the shoulders and you say, Yurcher, this needs to be helped. He needs to do this, you know?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, you know? Hey, what's this little thing on the front of this? That's the hand crank, because they didn't have starters in the early days, and you had to be a big guy to turn that thing. That's right, you know? So it's fascinating to see little morsels of what people like about these cars, what they ask about them, what they really light up, and what different cars do it to different people.
Well, I'll tell you the one that got Kelly all wound up, and I don't remember what it was. It's a deco car. I don't know if it was a Delahaye. The story was that it was a gift, maybe from the French government to a Persian prince.
Right, and it's
a wedding gift.
Yes, 1939 Van Voren coach-built Bugatti Type 57.
Bugatti, yes.
In blue black, very gorgeous car, very, very, very Art Deco, and that was a car in 1939 the French government gave to the Prince of Persia, who became the Shah. Bugatti is a French car. Some people think, no, it's Italian. Ettore Bugatti was Italian. He immigrates to France, and that's where he built his cars. So they're French automobiles. But like most...
Another trivia question out the window.
Blown away.
There you go. So there you go. But if you look at Delahaye, Delage, Bugatti, these are the triumvirate of fine French automobiles. They didn't come with bodies. You had to have the body made for your car. And so this one is custom made by Van Voren, who is basically the king of style during the Art Deco period. Every single thing on this car is a teardrop. And it is one of the two magnet cars that we have in the building. And that car, if you think about Art Deco style, it did not transcend World War II. World War II is technology. It is engineering. Do we see Art Deco after World War II? Yeah, because we're building pre-war cars for the first couple of years after the war. Then it goes away. So pre-war, Art Deco European automobiles become cartoon characters in the 50s. That car is sold from the Shaw's garage for $175. You know?
Oh my gosh!
In 1959. And then the other car that she may have, and that a lot of people key in it, which is the absolute marquee car for the museum, another Art Deco car, 1925 Rolls-Royce, which looks like it fell from space.
Oh, the round door car.
The round door Rolls-Royce, which is given a Belgian Art Deco body in the mid-30s, and it is absolutely one of one. And that car's got a wacky story, because its original consigner, the lady who signed the contract, was the widow of Horace Dodge. And she cancels.
Wow.
Think about it. The Dodge brothers are the two richest men in America. Their widows become the two richest women in America. They can have whatever they want. Give me a Rolls.
Not driving a Dodge.
No. Their groceries are delivered in a Dodge, but she orders this car, cancels the order before it's even constructed. No problem. There's a waiting list in the 20s for a Rolls Phantom 1. The car gets purchased by, I think, a Maharaja, drives it around. It falls out of favor in the 30s with Art Deco, comes back with this new spaceship body with a round door and faired wheels and a dorsal fin and this, these windows that roll down like butterfly wings. And the thing is the toast of Europe for a few years, and then after the war it shows up in a junkyard in New Jersey. It's found again, and it's restored. It's used to promote grocery store grand openings. It disappears again. It's discovered in Japan in the 80s and makes its way to Los Angeles, and Mr. Petersen spends 5 years and a fortune restoring the thing. So, each one of these cars just has this magnificent story, and you're either going to roll your eyes or you're going to ask more questions about it.
Well, that one, yes, that was insane too. But I think she liked the Bugatti a little bit more just because of the scale, because that Rolls is huge.
It's enormous. I've seen that car arrive at shows with a spotter car running in front of it, just because it's like driving an armored vehicle. The windows are very small and the thing is very large, and it's kind of hard to manage the scale of it visually. But a Bugatti is a race car. It's small. It doesn't fill your visual space up that much. You can see both sides of it at once.
Yeah.
And just sort of suck the whole thing in.
Yeah, that Rolls is like what an early 1930s Darth Vader would have drove.
Exactly. That's probably the best description. That's the best description you can give. It was like Ming the Merciless's car or something like that.
Yeah, right. Well, so of course, for me, and the tour is broken up into different categories, if you will, because I think you guys have different, because there's time constraints, you can't see everything. So you pick different sections, and it's like, okay, we're going to see these, and these, and these, and those other things over there, just pay no attention to those behind the curtain. That's for the other day. And we walked around the corner, and I stopped right in my tracks because there it was.
Cadzilla. Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, Mike was waiting for this.
And sad to say, the last car I locked eyes with the last day I was there before the shutdown. And this is, oh man, it's so sad to not be able to go. Because of the shutdown, museums had to close, and they reopened under the auspices of what California would let a museum do. And, there are hostesses on each floor squirting hand sanitizer at everybody who walks by, and there's lines on the ground, walk this way, walk that way. And they did their best, and they just had to shut back down again. But the last day I was there, between the shutdowns, there she was, parked on the second floor next to the Hirohata Mercury, and just glanced at them on the spiral staircase. They were on the second floor on full display. But I love it when that car is in the vault. And I know you've talked ad nauseum about Cadzilla, and we talked about Hot Wheel cars. In the 90s, when Mattel did the special Boyd set, I've got every Hot Wheel of that thing ever made. The special set that came with Shazoom and Cadzilla, and then the big scale cars and all that. So. And so I love it because the one car that I can kind of lead up to it with is, you're going to laugh, the 32 Ford that was used in the 1984 Van Halen video for Hot for Teacher.
Oh, right on.
So let's hear how you do this. 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon on that one.
Well, and it's an 80s, it's a locked into the 80s automobile. It's a 32 Phaeton with, bright yellow, and it's got 80s period mags, and it's got a 80s period red stripe on this, it's a 1980s automobile. And I come around the corner, who's a Van Halen fan? And I'm looking for guys my age, right? And a few guys look at their wives and then kind of sheepishly raise a half a hand. You, sir, you're a Van Halen man. I could spot you from a mile away. I'll bet you. I'll bet you're Hot for Teacher, aren't you? Oh yeah. And there's the Hot for Teacher car, which in the 80s, am I not mistaken, we all wanted that car, didn't we?
Well, yeah, and I think it's probably kind of a distant cousin of Eliminator, so I think I see where you're going. Yeah. Exactly,
but it's kind of a cartoon of the 80s.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the Chuck Barris or who's the guy, the Gong Show, right?
Chuck Barris, yeah.
Yes. But then I swing around and I'm like, now, who's a ZZ Top fan? And people say, are we going to see Cadzilla? And we come around the corner and there she is.
Yeah.
And people are like, what was this thing? That was a Cadillac. Hence the name. Oh man. You're not kidding. Well, people zero in on so many details of that car, whether it's the gas tank on the nose of it.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that looks like the weird looking things I watched race in the 50s. Yeah, right. The wheels, those custom wheels. Oh, I hear granddads telling their grandkids, you know what we did back in the 50s? I don't care what you had. I don't care if it was a Pontiac. You put those Cadillac hubcaps on there. We call them sombreros.
Hmm.
And that's what you put on your car.
Nice.
That's it.
That's what the cool guys did. They put these sombrero hubcaps on their Mercuries, right? And other guys look at how long it is, how low it is. They didn't make a Cadillac this low. No, they didn't. But you got to remember, Boyd Coddington is the genius the wonderkind who comes to the fore. And prior to this, I've shown them a whole bunch um, of other Southern California design and build cars. And who am I showing them from the 50s and 60s?
You're showing them Larry Watson cars and like the hero
Yeah,
out of Merck, and you're showing
exactly.
them other
So this
customs like Barris and
Yeah, so this lineage of California, you know, ingenuity, and where is it going? It's going into the 90s, okay, with Cadzilla, and if you ever notice the license plate on that car? It's a blue and yellow California plate. What does it say?
I-8 Tokyo.
I-8 Tokyo. Now, every now and
That will
then,
never be a trivia question because
no.
Kevin would get that immediately.
Now, every now and then, I get the opportunity to lead a special group down there, whether it's special guests from Cal Polytechnic Engineering School or whatever, engineering students and stuff like that. I get there in the morning. I'm looking down the roster. Chris, this is your interpreter. Oh, Japanese interpreter, because
Uh-oh.
we have engineering students from Honda who've come here from Japan and would like a tour. Okay. Do you know how long it took me to try and explain the license plate on that car? I-8 Tokyo.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got to understand, and I'm speaking through an interpreter. Okay. You guys have Godzilla, right? Godzilla. Good.
Gojira.
Okay.
They would know who Gojira is.
Gojira. Okay. The car is called Cadzilla, kind of like a car version of Godzilla. Now, remember how Godzilla ate Tokyo? License plate says I ate Tokyo. The car, no. The car didn't eat Tokyo. You can see the circular argument that I'm sort of stuck in and trying to move away from.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not
Uh,
about the plate, kids. It's about the
no,
car. Yeah.
it's about the car. And then for the guys who really like ZZ Top, I can swing around because when they do put Cadzilla in the vault, it's usually next to Slam Impala, which is one of the other Billy Gibbons cars that we have, which is a '62 Impala.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
Pete Chapora's car, right?
yeah, which it's sort of that aquamarine car with the Mexican blanket interior, and it's
Yeah.
on the ground. It's a beautiful '62. They always park that with the lowriders. So we've got the El Rey, we've got the Gypsy Rose. It's kind of like this lineage of. It's not a lowrider by any means. It's a sort of like the last gasp of a sled, still being a big car. But
But
it's
it's
kind
kind
of
of
cool.
Texano, the same thing. So
Exactly. So it's kind of cool to just, it's sort of luck of the draw the way they position cars down there. But sometimes you get this magic where they park the right cars next to each other, and you can weave stories about them. And Slam Paula and Cadzilla being close together, and with the lead up being, our friend from the '80s from Van Halen. It's kind of cool.
that is neat. It's a great way to contextualize all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I got to say, so the first time I saw Cadzilla was obviously under construction in Hot Rod Magazine with the Baskerville stories and all that jazz. But I saw the
Yeah.
actual car on tour at the Street Machine Nationals one year in DuQuoin, Illinois. And it completely stopped me in my tracks. And honestly, it was smaller than I thought. It was definitely
Yes.
lower, but it was smaller. And I know it seemed larger than life because of Randy Lorenzen's fold-out poster being
Yes.
kind of on my wall. And I just, the personality of the car is larger than life. But my buddy
yeah.
Paul and I were standing there under this tent in front of the, next to the BFG display. And I'm looking at this car and I'm like, oh my God, here it is. It's on the grass. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
this this grass doesn't deserve, I mean, this car doesn't deserve to be on the grass. This thing should be, it should have been flown in on a Zeppelin with,
Oh yeah.
beams of light to the sky and everything.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the hallmark cars in the lexicon of hot rodding, and it leaves its mark. And to see any car in the vault, sitting in a concrete garage, dimly lit, as opposed to being on the second floor, parked next to the Hirohata Mercury, the absolute embryonic beginnings of that genre of car, with that kind of history, that's where it belongs. And I don't want to say it's weird to just kind of file past it in the garage, but when it's parked next to other cars of that it belongs with, and under perfect lighting and all that, it's so much cooler to see it in a setting like that.
Well, but at the same time, I really dig, and I really liked seeing it in the basement down there, because, hot rodding isn't necessarily, and this is going to sound silly, because people build hot rods and crazy cars because they want the attention. They want to stand out, they want all that.
Right.
But ZZ Top and Billy Gibbons and that car, I think, are far more appreciated when you discover them. It's not in your face. And
that's true.
And for that kind of presentation, I literally walked around the corner around this pillar, and I went to Kelly. I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting there. And it's the coolest thing in the world. For me, it is next to Saturn V, moon rocket,
right.
It is the coolest thing in the world. And I'm like, and it's just sitting there like, hey, what's up? What do you need?
See, Kevin, and that's exactly perfect what you just said, because you walk past all these other cars. You walk past the Ferrari that was given by Enzo to Henry Ford II, the car that became the impetus for the Thunderbird. You walk past Steve McQueen's Jaguar, and then you saw that one car that really just blew your mind, right? And I get there about an hour early, because sometimes you don't know what's going to be down there, and sometimes you get an email of, okay, hey, just so you guys know, for the next couple of weeks, it's just visiting. Somebody's going to drop off this car. But when you come around that pillar, and you see a car that you didn't know was going to be there. And for me, it was about a year ago, it was the 68-69 Gulf GT40.
Oh, yeah.
The Jackie X car. And I didn't know it was going to be there. And I go downstairs, I got my cup of coffee, I'm just half awake, lumbering through the vault. What do we got in here today, guys? And I'm staring at this thing. I'm like, cool, super performance car. Looks pretty good. Wait, those are Ford vents on the dash. I'm like, that's cracked lacquer. I'm like, this is the car. This is the most significant American-made racing car in history. And it's sitting here. And if I wanted to, I could lay my hand on it. I'm not supposed to. There's cameras everywhere. But I'm like, that was my Saturn V. Seeing this thing, I'm like, what's it doing here? Like, it's on loan from the Henry Ford for a couple weeks, because it's going to get put on display at the LA Auto Show, because they're going to introduce something, right? And there it was.
Oh man!
And so I'm like doing my preamble in the lobby with my 40 guests. And there's a dude, one of these guys is going to be wearing a Blip Shift shirt with a Gulf car on it.
Yeah.
Invariably. I'm like, you, sir, are going to have the day of your life today. He goes, okay. We come around the corner, and I see the jaw hit the ground, just like mine had done an hour earlier. And then it's gone. Poof, off it went, back to where it was supposed to go. And it was only there for a small little fleeting time. But we get that every now and then, and it's absolutely staggering. With the launch of Ford versus Ferrari, we had some Ken Miles cars for a while.
Nice.
And that was also very, very cool. It's like they had his movie car that he drove, the number one car, but next to it was his actual It was a Daytona, and it was one of the Daytonas that he drove in either I think it was a Sebring car, like one of the Daytonas. And it's
One of the, yeah, right. Crazy.
And it's like, Ken Miles sat in this. Ken Miles drove this.
Yeah.
And people are gabbing, Googling the other, or, ogling the other car. I'm like, that was made 6 months ago for a movie, guys.
Right.
Yeah,
This is the real deal. Yeah.
But this, they're like, it looks like a 240Z. I'm like,
right. And we are walking. Well, yeah. So that is really a special thing, especially when it's a car that you've been familiar with, for a long time. And for Zilla, it was, 88, 89 when that thing first was being put together. And, and again, like I said, I've seen it, many times in person. I saw it on display at the Petersen. I saw it, like I said, at the Street Machine Nats, but to see it just casually just parked and sitting there was a totally, I think for me, it was able to bring me a half a step closer to that car because it wasn't roped off and it wasn't on display, Right.
It was
kind
There's no pretense.
Yeah, behind the scenes look at this thing. And as the tour moved on, and that's when I was at the back, you guys were kind of going down the hallway. I kind of took that last stare at this thing, and Kelly's like, "You're not going to cry, are you?" I already am.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta cry.
Exactly.
I cried when I saw the number 6 Golf car. I did.
Mm-hmm.
I choked up, and there's no photography allowed by the guests, which I understand why. There's a lot of reasons for it, but I'm down there by myself during my sort of orientation walk in the morning, and I'm snapping a few and texting my friends, and they're like, "Yeah, that's cool. What car show you at?" I'm like, no, dudes, this ain't.
You don't get it.
This is not a kit. This is the car. and what's fun is. We opened up for a week and a half before they shut us back down again. We had Cybertruck in the lobby.
Oh,
and that was just kind of a fluke. I think Elon Musk was doing some sort of promotion, found out that Petersen was reopening, and I think called him a few days ahead of the reopening and said, "Hey, do you guys just want to plop Cybertruck in the lobby for a while?" And they're like, "Sure." And I don't have any real, I would say, connection to Cybertruck other than just watching the hype that the world has with this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you said, when you see it for the first time, you're either going to say that's bigger than I thought, or that's smaller than I thought, or that's about what I thought. And I walk in and I have no idea. I've watched our social media for the past 2 days, and hey, look, it's Cybertruck, cool.
Yeah,
Thing is
there
massive. It's massive. It's huge. And they announced it on their social media like the day and a half before the first day of reopening, and they had a line out the door because it's like, who wouldn't want to see Cybertruck?
A lot of people put $100 down on that thing, and then they want to see what they're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I have some friends who have. It's kind of fun,
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up a little bit here. I know this could go on. We're going to have you back because there's more of these stories.
Oh, yeah.
So for anybody curious, I highly recommend going to the Petersen Museum in Los Angeles. Check schedule, see if they're open. With all this nonsense, who knows? You want to make sure that if you go, you can have as full of experience as you can, and not, half capacity or what. I don't even know what they're doing to limit exposure, but hopefully you can go when it's the full tilt thing. And I recommend seeing both. Of course, see the top 3 floors, but also get a chance to see the vault tour. And if you're lucky, Chris will be working. You guys should meet. It'll be fun.
Hey, if you come, please, share your stories with us. One of the things that I love more than anything else at the end of a tour, watching a guy reach for his phone, because I know the next thing he's going to do is show me what he has at home.
Right.
especially if that dude's from like Australia or Sweden or something like that, and he wants to show me his Holden or his Vauxhall or something like that. and that's, we love that. We just absolutely love learning what everybody else has. Yeah, sure, we have cool stuff, but so do the people who come there. That's why we go there,
Yep.
and we like to learn too.
Very cool. So what's the website? PetersenMuseum.org, I think, or
it's just Petersen. Now it's with an E, so Petersen.org. If you just get a single page, we're closed. Just keep watching it, and get on the social media for it, because they're pretty. Right now, they're doing some innovative things. They're doing a virtual cars and coffee every now and then, where you can like send in a video of your car with a little narrative about it, and they're stitching them all together and doing like virtual car shows and virtual cars and coffee and all that kind of stuff. And
all right, maybe I'll take a video of my Buick and send that in.
Dude,
there you go.
Dude, you should do that. Totally.
And then we'll get Mike and the CTO.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. It's
closest that thing's ever going to get to the Petersen.
Yeah.
My Buick outside of being parked outside. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Well, hey, man, it's been an absolute honor. I mean, you've asked me to do this, and I've always thought, man, why would you want to talk to me? Like I said, I'm just sort of a leaf that's been drifting through the rivers of the automotive industry, but we all have stories to tell. Oh, yes. Man. Well, we all have stories to tell, and we all love to share experiences. So this has been an absolutely fantastic opportunity. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. But we got to get our answers to the trivia questions.
Yes. Okay, who goes first?
You go first.
Kevin, you nailed it.
Get out of here.
God damn.
You nailed it.
I don't even remember the question.
Why does the Citroën have a double chevron emblem?
Oh, yeah, because it looks like that gear thing.
Andre Citroën, one of his first ventures was building gears. And
unbelievable.
There's some there is some controversy as to whether he designed a bevel gear drive or whether he just purchased the patent for it. But he was the patent holder for one of the earliest engineered bevel drive gear systems. I believe it was used by the French Navy, and he adopted the double bevel as the emblem for the Citroën automobile.
You're kidding me. I got that right?
Honestly,
you got it right.
Come on.
You got it right.
Well, I'm not sure how that even happened, but I will tell you that I experienced, and thank you for pointing out the bevel gear. That was the name I was trying to come up with. I have a daily experience with the bevel gear because that is what my Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner uses to pick up cat hair in the house, is a beveled thing like that. So
Nice.
I thank Mr. Andreas Citroën for doing what he did. Right on.
That's true.
All right.
All right. What's the Hot Wheel deal?
Okay,
yeah, Mike.
So I asked you guys what was the most expensive. What was the cost of the most expensive Hot Wheels cars ever made? Hot Wheels car ever made.
Yeah.
And it was in 2008, and it was a car that was built to commemorate the 40th anniversary and the 4 billionth Hot Wheel car made.
Oh.
And the car was a model that they have called the Custom Auto, which was named after Otto Cooney, who created the original artwork for that car in 1968. But this car was cast in 18-karat white gold.
Ha!
Wow.
Had 1,388 blue diamonds, 988 black diamonds, 319 white diamonds, 8 rubies, and 600 hours of painstaking labor to create, and at a cost of $140,000.
Wow!
It was a one-off car made that was auctioned off.
I don't know why. Something stuck in my head, like something that would have been built for like Princess Diana. I don't know why I went there in my brains after I punted.
Yeah.
But your answer, Chris, the Beach Bomb has a value of about $125,000.
Yeah, okay.
So that means we both kind of won, because I said made out of some exotic material, low production.
Yes, you did.
You did say that, but I was looking for a number. You got the Citron.
I lost.
Be happy with that.
Yeah, man. It's awesome.
All right. So my question to you guys was, when was the first plastic model kit made for sale? And Chris said in 1936, because Henry Ford was experimenting with soy products to make bones and stuff.
Yep.
And it ended up making plastic model kits out of that. Cue Ball said 1964.
Yep.
Because the Beatles were into small cars and they wanted to build cars. The correct answer is 1951.
Oh.
In 1951, Revell introduced its first all-plastic model kit of an early automobile, a classic 1910 Maxwell, in which it had a driver, which was a scaled-down version of radio comedian Jack Benny.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty cool. And I guess by 2000, the scale model industry had produced more automobiles than all the automotive giants of Detroit combined. So,
and to think, I used to buy Johann kits for $3 a pop at the thrifty grocery store down the street from my parents' dry cleaners. And you know what my buddy's getting for those on eBay now?
Yeah, he's getting like $150.
Yeah, and how many of those did I burn?
Yeah, we blew them all up. And that's the funny thing is that's how I lured Chris into this podcast, was telling him we're going to talk about model cars.
And we never got to it.
Well, I did with my trivia question,
Yeah,
so there you go.
here.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
that'll be next time when you come back.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, man, this has been an absolute honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
This was great. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, this is like the spoiler on the back of my COVID Odyssey. I'm just gonna my Gurney lip on the back end of my COVID Odyssey, and I'm gonna use that to just create a aftercurrent of recovery here.
Nice, an aftercurrent of recovery. This is Chris's wellness wicker bill in
You hear
motion.
that,
There you
Kevin?
go.
We cure COVID. This show.
Yeah,
I heard
COVID.
it here first.
Yeah.
VA Radio crushes the
Hey,
COVID.
Crush the COVID.
when I hey, seriously, when I get my retest on Saturday, it's dedicated to you guys.
Right on.
Right on.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that.
If it's a negative.
Yeah, right. Well, I sanitized my microphone, so I'm good.
Good. And
Likewise.
say hi to Kelly. Tell her I could tell you're still. I don't need to reinforce. Everything's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. Totally all good.
I think it's going to stick.
Good.
It's been a few years.
Yeah.
And our best to your lovely wife, Maria, as well. And
Thank you.
Again, we thank you for coming on. We appreciate everybody for listening to this Odyssey we call V8 Radio. Please subscribe. iTunes is a good one. We're trying to boost that. iTunes is jerking us around, by the way.
Yeah, they are jerking us
rating
around.
things. We, at one point, Chris, we were in the top 15 on automotive podcasts on iTunes.
I know you were doing good.
Yeah, now we're like 3 million.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened. But,
They jerk
And
the
there's only
numbers
2
around.
million shows.
I know. We owe them credit. So
I don't know, man.
hopefully we can help spin that around. And, of course, all
right.
the rest of the places to listen, we hope you do that too. And we'll be back next time with something else more fun. Then maybe Chris will come back again, and we'll do more of this fun stuff.
Now that I know it's fun and not scary, and I can do it sitting here in my bunker. Yeah, have me back. This is cool.
Right on.
Well, Chris texted me, Mike, right before the show started, and he said, "Do I have to wear clothes?"
And wait, I'll have you know that for this, I took a shower, I shaved, and I put on clothing for the first time in 10 days.
That's outstanding. We can tell.
Nice.
You presented yourself as very well dressed.
Thank you.
All right, my friends, on behalf of Mr. Chris Vopat and Mike Q-Ball Clarke, I'm Kevin Oeste, reminding you to keep the shiny side under 100. And we'll see you next time on V8 Radio.